Right then, ladies and gents, we're here to talk about Disney versus Jim and John Thomas, the original writers for Predator. Now, if you didn't know, Disney is being sued by the original writers of Predator because they want the rights back. They were, or at least have a precedent for the rights to come back to them under copyright law. Now, essentially, they filed notices, which we're going to get into some of the background in a second. They filed notices, Disney and 20th Century Fox ignored them, and the notice was, 10 days ago now, that the rights would revert to them on the 17th of April, and Disney filed a counter-suit, basically, saying, no, we don't agree with this, you're not doing this, and now they're both going to court, which there is actually a motion hearing scheduled for Thomas versus Disney. So this is a relatively large update, actually. And we're going to go through what these previous articles have said, because this is avpgalaxy.net. Great website. Really, accrue all of the news from various places. Good friends of the channel. Worked with them before. Nice guys. So head on over to them. I'll leave their articles linked down below. But this is what we're going to be covering today, and it is absolutely fascinating. And in terms of the sort of real question here, is basically, will it stop? Will it now stop any Predator content being made? And this is what Disney is trying to get out of, because currently there's a precedent in terms of, say, Friday the 13th, for instance, where it's just currently in legal limbo. No one can make anything. And that's what Disney is trying to avoid. And obviously Disney will ultimately try and just, keep the rights. Of course they will. But there does seem to be a way that Disney can get around all of this situation and still make stuff. So that's what we're going to cover today. Link down below along with those articles are two things. My Blu-ray Blackfields, you can still grab it, so please do get it whilst you can. And also my second channel. It's a car channel. If you're interested in cars, I'm rebuilding a Nissan Pulsar GT-IR, which is a Group A rally homologation special from the 90s. You might be intrigued to see what that is. It's quite rare. Most people haven't even heard of it, actually. So find that link down below. But let's dive into this, right? So will new Predator content be stopped? That's the question, isn't it? Will this lawsuit stop any new content being made? Now, a motion hearing is scheduled for Thomas versus Disney. So the battle between the original Predator creators Jim and John Thomas and Disney for ownership of the US Predator copyright is heating up. And now there is a court date scheduled to decide if new Disney-era Predator content should be stopped until all the legal issues are resolved. Basically trying to avoid the Friday the 13th limbo that has happened. Because that's not good. It's not good for anyone. It's frustrating. Personally, just to lay my card on the table, I'm actually fine with Jim and John Thomas getting their rights back. All ultimately they'll do is just sell it back onto someone else. But I don't think Disney are the people to handle this R-rated property. And I don't even think Fox was, to be perfectly honest. Towards the end, they greenlit this Predator film, and this Predator film sounds garbage. There's like a 17-year-old Comanche warrior girl that's going to be facing off against the Predator. It doesn't sound particularly great, so I'm more than happy for Jim and John Thomas to get the rights back and sell it on to someone else with maybe the proviso that they write it again. I don't know. But anyway, Thursday, the 27th of May. Right, this is the big day for Predator fans, and it is a huge day because that is the day when a motion hearing will take place for a preliminary injunction, and this is the stuff which will either stop or put it into legal limbo. So if you recall, in the previous article on this website, they assessed that the Thomas brothers were trying to stop the new Disney-era Predator film, Skulls, from going into production. This is because the legal representation for the Thomas brothers indicated they were entitled to have the court issue a preliminary injunction on new Predator works, which is a temporary court order that would prevent Disney from continuing new Predator works until the conclusion of a trial. Now, this is the legal complaint. Plaintiffs are entitled to a preliminary injunction during the pendency of this action and thereafter to a permanent injunction, pursuant to 28 U.S.C. 2202, enjoining defendants, their officers, agents and employees, and all persons acting in concert with them from exploiting after April 17th, 2021, the effective termination date, new derivative works based on the screenplay and derivative Predator film franchise, without first obtaining at arm's length a new copyright license from plaintiffs. That's basically what they're trying to do. And this will decide that. So now it seems that there is a court hearing scheduled for that very purpose, so for this. And on May 27th, Magistrate Judge Laurel Beeler will hear both sides and decide if a preliminary injunction should go into effect. Here are the motion hearing details. So Thomas et al. Versus 20th Century Fox Film Corporation et al. Clerk's notice setting Zoom hearing. Motion for preliminary injunction set for 5th, 27th, 2021 at 9:30 a.m. in San Francisco. Video conference only before Magistrate Judge Laurel Beeler. This proceeding will be held via a Zoom webinar. Webinar access, all council members of the public and media may access the webinar information at, and then obviously the link, General Order 58, persons granted access to court proceedings held by telephone, blah, 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 blah. Nothing much to go into here. Now, it appears that the public can virtually attend this hearing, but if you do, please remember recording as well as taking screenshots is not permitted. So will the 27th of May be a dark day for Predator fans? Because the thing is, this website obviously just wants content, and I kind of get that. But to me, I'm more than happy. I'm more than happy for Disney to get sued and these writers get the rights back and just sell them on to someone else, because it just takes it out of the hands of Disney, and I'm happy with that. So obviously, it's all about, is it going to end up like Friday the 13th? Is it? Is it going to end up like them? Now, this article here I found very, very interesting. So it's the battle for Predator, examining Disney's complaint. So what is the actual complaint? What is it that they're actually saying? What is it that they deny Jim and John Thomas? You know, what's the deal here? So let's have a look. So, courtesy of Deadline, we have Disney's counter-complaint for declaratory relief in our possession, and once again, we'll do our best to break it down and understand the studio's side and what precisely Disney 20th Century Fox Studios is fighting. When a creator of a spec film script, not a work-for-hire script, sells their screenplay to a film studio, US copyright law's terminations provision allows those very same creators to reclaim ownership of those sold properties after 35 years. Very standard, and there's a legal precedent for this as well. Now, to start that process, the original creator must serve the studio a notice of termination, or simply termination notice. This notice gives the studio the required warning that the US copyright will be returning to its original owner. Again, very standard, this is actually what they did. Now, the point of contention between the Thomas brothers and Disney does not appear to be the reclaiming of copyright ownership itself, but actually the validity of 2 out of 3 termination notices that the Thomas brothers sent to 20th Century Studios. Now, that's what they're saying, but it is to get the copyright extended at the very least. Because you'll see their aim is to keep it till 2023 by the looks of it. So the first termination notice received, according to Disney's 20th Century Studios legal team, Jim and John Thomas first sent a notice of termination in June of 2016, informing the studio that the brothers were taking back the US copyright of Predator Hunters on the termination date of April 17th, 2021. Seems pretty standard to me. But lawyers for 20th Century Studios argue that the notice they received had errors, rendering it invalid. The main error being the notice referenced an incorrect copyright number. Apparently, the Hunter's script was never registered at the US Copyright Office, which it isn't required by law, funnily enough. But the Predator rewrite script was indeed registered, which at that point was technically a work for hire, and that Predator rewrite copyright number was incorrectly referenced as the Hunter's copyright number in the termination notice. So because of this and both errors, Disney's legal team says the first notice of termination is invalid. They did not advise the Thomas brothers of the errors, however, until January this year. And you can see, you can build a picture here of how they're just trying to procrastinate to keep the rights, basically. Now, the second termination notice, according to Disney's 20th Century Studios legal team, they received a second termination notice from the Thomas brothers in January of 2021. This second notice of termination addressed the copyright number error in the first, indicating the number represents a revised version of their work, not Hunters itself. The notice also indicated that they were taking back the US copyright of Hunters on June 14th, 2022. But lawyers for 20th Century Studios argue that the second notice was invalid too, mainly because its termination date of June 14th, 2022 was under the 2 years required by law from the point of serving notice. Again, procrastination. Their legal team also suggests that mentioning the revised Predator screenplay copyright number and title Predator is an intentional and purposeful invocation of the Predator name, because in truth the Thomas brothers can only be granted Hunters. So because of this, Disney's legal team says the second notice of termination is invalid. Like, are you for real? So here we go. Here's the third termination, right? This is the one that they think is fine. And this is the one that they're going to hold on to and probably push even further. So in the Thomas brothers legal complaint, they indicate a third termination notice was sent with a termination date of January 13th, 2023. Nothing in the Disney's countersuit complaint is indicating that this third termination notice received is invalid. They just acknowledge receipt. So it would at least appear that this third notice the Thomas brothers served to reclaim the US copyright of Predator, Hunters, is, for now, considered valid and subsequently will come to fruition. So what is Disney now seeking? Disney is seeking a declaration from the courts that termination notice 1 and 2 is invalid, along with their respective termination dates, and a ruling in their favour, provided there is no preliminary injunction. Interesting. Now, this should allow Disney to continue Predator films and licensed Predator projects freely, at least until January 23rd. Well, January 2023. What do you guys think of this? Honestly, to me, I can just sense they'll end up taking them back to court just to try and keep the rights. It just seems petty at this point. But what do you guys think? Please do let me know down below in the comment section. If you're new here, do hit subscribe. Thank you all so much for watching though, guys. I find this stuff fascinating and I will keep you up to date. Take care.